now. And
yeah, just let me start.
yeah.
And you can catch up. So thank you everybody for joining in. We've had to move our Big Idea Wednesday to Monday, of course, because of the holiday. So as typical, because this is interactive and a dialogue, I'll ask everybody if, unless you have technical problems, if you could please come on screen so that we can see each other, because this is a conversation, not a presentation as such. So I'm really grateful to Rachelle and Sann to come on. When I was trying to think of topics, one of the things that struck my curiosity was, you know, how are companies positioning themselves during COVID? And there was a post on LinkedIn that caused me to think about it. And so I thought of Rachelle right away and reached out to Rachelle. Rachelle is president of Publicis Montreal, and Sann is her vice president creative director, and two formidable women. And Rachelle and I were talking about some of the kind of conversations they had internally. And one of the things that I'm curious about, Rachelle, as well, and I see Sann's joined, is through a lot of these conversations, you know, we've been doing this weekly series since March, and we've been talking a lot about virtual, you know, virtual work and remote. And it's always been curious to me is, how does a creative team that is used to being together and up all night, having worked in the agency business, I know how creative happens. And I was curious, like, how is that impacting the creative process? And so I'll be interested to hear all that. So I think I will just turn this over to you and Sann. Just to let everybody know, good morning, Sann, it's good to see you. If as you have questions or comments, put them in the chat. We'll take the questions in order. So the chat is just to control the traffic more than anything else. So I'll hand it over to the two of you. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. So the subject, I mean, is super large. Obviously, you know, how does the creative process happen is one element of a larger you know, environment that we've been sort of thrown in with COVID. I was also part of the people, I think if you'd asked me a year ago if creative agencies could work from home completely, I would have probably told you, no, we need to be together. We need to, you know, to be in the same room, to get the creative juices flowing, whatever. So I was probably part of those people. And I have to say, obviously, that, you know, I have changed my opinion, because it's actually been a lot easier and a lot smoother than I would have expected. And Sann will probably be able to tell you a little bit more about how she works with her teams in terms of generating ideas. But I think that, you know, obviously all the technology, we were already up and running with all that. So the capacity to work from home or remotely was there. And we also had a lot of processes for generating ideas, you know, and so all these were sort of like used to propel all the creative thinking remotely. And it's been working great. So what I did for this morning was kind of like want to give you sort of an overview of, you know, how we viewed the COVID and the impact of it on brands. And then maybe just like go a little bit deeper into some examples of brands that have done some good work. And then Sann can share a little bit about behind the scenes. How does the creative process happen? How were we able to continue to create content within all these new social distancing regulations? So if everybody is okay with that agenda, I will start sharing my screen. Okay. Did that work? Okay. So we've put a mask on the lion just to make sure we're good. And so what we first, when we first started looking at it and we were deep diving into the crisis phase with our clients, we already could tell that, there was something very intense that we were living, that was affecting our clients differently depending on which area they worked in. And we'll see a little bit later all the different areas and obviously how it's affected them. But even within our little microcosm, obviously some of the grocery clients, or financial institutions have been super busy, right? And they've been more busy than ever, and having to transform super quickly. And for other clients, like in the retail environment, it's been a little bit tougher, and it's forced people to look at their actual e-commerce capabilities and the whole digital transformation. So the crisis phase was like, okay, let's deal with this now, but let's never forget that there's going to be another phase of slowly phasing out of the crisis and moving into the new normal. So when we were deep into the crisis, we were all facing like this deep, profound uncertainty. We didn't know, I mean, I don't have to explain it to you guys because you've all lived through it, but we didn't really know what had just hit us here. And so a lot of agencies got this brief, what should we do for COVID? Sann, do you want to talk a little bit about these examples?
Yeah, in fact, at the beginning of the crisis, this was very amazing because everybody was reacting and all the brands in the world did the split of the logo. We saw on the McDonald's, but all the brands, Coca-Cola, all the big ones make this like, at the first it was like, oh my God, it's a great idea. But then when you see it like 1,000 times, it's like, okay, don't do it again, So this was the beginning of the crisis, and some brand did some mistake because you always have to think about the consumer, and when you want to be opportunist on that, it's never working. And we saw that on Cause Light, who did a big mistake, and then they repair it. But it's always, you have to keep in mind the consumer in the creation, because sometimes you got a flash. And even in the COVID situation, even if I'm not close with my team, we are always on Zoom, always on Zoom, FaceTime, Skype, Teams. We use everything, text and Messenger. So we are always connected and we share this kind of stuff. And at the beginning, it was like crazy. Everybody was, oh my God, we need to do this and this and this. And then it became, okay, everybody has done it, so we need to focus on one that was to put the consumer first. And then we changed the communication. So in the presentation, we'll see, this is the first phase when the crisis, with the first idea came to mind is like, okay, distance. And then it's evolving. So Rachelle is going to go through the next steps.
Yeah. And what we were telling our clients during this phase is basically there's three key principles, and to not seem opportunistic, like Sann just said, you have to make sure that your message was sincere. And these are just like all these data points from the Edelman Barometer to confirm this. Consumers wanted to feel that brands were not being self-interested. They wanted brands to express empathy and support or help. Don't just advertise. Consumers want to know that what brands are doing to help, and also be credible. So only go where you have a real and authentic role. And I think maybe that's kind of where Coors Light erred in that ad, and why there was a backlash at that point, and I mean, it's normal to try different things, and sometimes you want to just be humoristic, but the consumers aren't there, and so it's always a little bit of a risk. And so the guiding principles in that phase were these, and but there were also some really cool things that were done, and these are examples of some of those sincere, credible, and helpful things. You want to talk about them, Sann?
Yeah, for sure. You know, CCM for the OK, and they did the they produce productive hoods for frontline healthcare worker. It was like amazing because it's the first brand that took like part of the crisis that, okay, we're gonna help with our knowledge, we're gonna help the health system. So this is one, and we have also a vodka, Circa, who did exactly the same. They do vodka in the real time, and then they was like they turned themselves into break from vodka to fight COVID with hand sanitizer. So
Which
it's
is
very,
why
very,
now every time you go into a store, your hand smells like vodka.
yeah, and you can lick it. And then, no, it's funny because when you look at it, there is a lot of articles who are saying like, okay, vodka is not a good product to sanitize. So people may maybe make some mistakes. So it was
Little confusing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, oh, there was a couple more that you put in here.
Yeah, this is a very nice one because it's the Burger King, and it's so simple. You can, if we say the consumer cannot go to the shop because you have to stay home, you can do it by yourself. I find it so wise and smart, a smart way to communicate.
And it's helpful, and it's a good way to still build your brand and be present, because a lot of brands were also wondering, you know, they were scared to do some mishaps, so it's like, oh, should we just not communicate, you know? So I think this was a good execution of how to do that. Sorry. So quickly moving through this, then, you know, we're in the now phase right now. And I just realized now I didn't actually talk about these lines, and I should have at the very beginning, but basically it was beyond the three phases. There were sort of like three currents that are overlapping each other and moving at different rhythms. So, you know, the health crisis, coupled with the behavioral disruption, and the economic impact. And those are three things that are going to come into play, obviously, when you're thinking of marketing and brands in this era. And so this is just a representation of how these things come together in a certain phase. And they for sure become super important when we're planning our communications and marketing. And what we're noticing now for brands and marketing is that it's a very uneven recovery. So first of all, it's uneven across the world. So there's many dimensions to the unevenness, but it's uneven in terms of the health crisis, of also of the way people are managing social distancing, and you know, there's a lot of social movements going on at the same time, and brands have also gone through somewhat of obviously a turmoil. We can see a lot of retailers are just folding right now, and other brands have successfully surfed but are barely surviving, while others have actually really used this opportunity to jump ahead. And so, for example, there is a definite boom in online retail. So we can see some figures here that attest to that. So fresh food sales up 215%, plus 300 in Red Mart's average weekly sales. This is an example from Italy, but increase in commerce transactions between February and March, e-commerce, is 81%. Oops, there's an E missing. And so we were talking about, you know, that unevenness, and this is just an illustration of that. So obviously the competitive set has completely changed for a lot of players. And there's some heavily impacted sectors that we know, like travel, tourism, hospitality, leisure, entertainment, retail, education, but also some direct beneficiaries such as Zoom, video conferencing is one of them, food delivery, virtual sociability, which was something we weren't really familiar with. I actually just watched an entire jazz festival concert last night that I happened upon, and I was like, wow, I didn't even know that we're doing this. So it's like people are turning around, but not even, you know, having enough time to sort of really get it out there. So in case you didn't know, you can actually live stream the Jazz Festival on Facebook. So there you go. So entertainment, streaming, and gaming, e-commerce, e-learning. So categories disruptors are filling the void of traditional brands that rely on physical consumer presence. So we see that a lot of pure digital players have had their opportunity of a lifetime to sort of step in and fill those voids, unfortunately, for some of the more traditional players. Another big trend that we're seeing in this time is the lipstick effect, which is basically that in times of crisis, people will engage with more comfort-seeking behavior. And so some of the products and categories that are showing a high growth is affordable luxury. So little things that make you feel good. You know, I actually put lipstick on today for this meeting. I haven't worn it every day, believe me, since confinement. But there's something about these little cares that have that give you a morale boost. And so these brands are definitely benefiting from this situation. So coming back to the whole unevenness of the situation we're living right now. And other declines, obviously, which we know. We also are noticing right now in this phase, it's a gradually expanding comfort zone. And I was, when I was working on this, I was actually looking at it and I was like, yeah, that's pretty much me. And like everything that I've gone through of like starting to research a cottage and then not booking it. And then 30 days later, actually going ahead, I was like, wow, okay, I'm very stereotypical here, but I'm sure you will recognize this, but this is something that we're looking at also and trying to plan into, with our clients into their different marketing plans. And so what we've been, you know, telling our clients is that there is an opportunity to assert confidence and leadership, especially when they were wondering about investments. Like, what do we do? One of the reflexes often to cut marketing expense. And, you know, obviously, it might seem like a biased opinion to say, no, keep spending. But based on research, what we've noticed is, you know, the brands that have gone dark have suffered a lot more than brands that have continued to be present and maintain or increase their marketing investments during the crisis. And so, yeah, so what we're seeing basically in this phase is just a gradual and cautious expansion of the horizons. There's an opportunity and a need to reestablish mental and behavioral patterns around brands. It's like totally new. We'll get to the next phase afterwards of acceleration during crisis, but it's true. There's really an opportunity to like step into this new perceptual mindset that's been created. And consumer understanding, speed and agility will be key to timing a response. And so as a partner for most of our clients, speed and agility has been our motto. That's how we've been doing things, turning around campaigns from the brief to TV in like 5 days through, you know, our magical creative team. So the new normal, the phase, this is pretty much the end of our little presentation, but the phase that we're coming into, there's obviously the economic impact is being felt in many areas. As the behavioral disruption and the health crisis sort of taper off, we will be left with this economical impact and all these, you know, behavior changes. And, you know, how different will the post-COVID-19 world be is really, is not a consensus. Nobody really knows. And this is just two quotes that we thought were interesting because they're pretty much at opposite ends from, you know, humans being adapt to events and stimuli over time. So they will learn to live with it. And you know, another professor from UCL says it's very unlikely that people will get back to life as it was before. So what we do know is that we will have an inevitable economic uncertainty and reduced consumer confidence. It's very likely that consumers will not be spending as much on big, as we saw, like the affordable luxury is something that's going to be that is seen that people are moving towards, but not so much huge investments because of the uncertainty. And they're going to be very wise in all the choices that they're going to make. But we know from the past also that, crisis does accelerate change. There are many positive things that have come out of past crises. So for instance, so the transition after World War II or 9/11 were not about a bunch of new ideas. The ideas were already out there, but the debates will be more acute over the next few months because of the fluidity of the moment. Decisions are being made fast, things are moving quicker, and so are consumer mindsets. So we need to accelerate. That is basically what we are, recommending as we move forward. Accelerate, because there's a fundamental shift in what is consumed. More products that are more environmentally friendly. We know there's been also a big shift towards local. Obviously people are going to be looking into the safety of what they consume a lot more closely also. I mean, obviously, digital transformation is now an imperative. It went from being a competitive advantage to a competitive necessity. And so, that's definitely what we've been preaching for a long time. And we're definitely continuing to work with our clients on when they need that contribution from us, obviously, to help them move to the digital world. And so basically, this is just as the recap of what we were talking about. So through the different phases, the challenge has evolved. So we went from uncertainty to now, which is a little bit of unevenness, but who is going to actually, catch the ball and run with it is the question right now. And so the brand prerogatives are from responsibility of the first phase, which is still there, obviously, because you need this. The first phase prerogative moves on into the next phases. Obviously, we don't just drop it because agility is always going to be important. But definitely the transformation to adapt to this new world is going to need to be accelerated. And so that was kind of like the sort of a researchy, strategic aspect. But I do know that you were interested, Deborah, in hearing a little bit about the creative process and maybe production and all that. So maybe, Sann, if you want to talk about that a little bit. I don't know if you had a slide that you want to share or no. Oh, we can't hear you. Oh, I can't hear you.
The classic.
Yes, there you go. You're back.
Okay, perfect. I can share my screen if you want to. So if you let me, okay, share. Okay, do you see my screen?
Peut-être un 5-10 minutes, Sann, parce que pour laisser du temps pour les questions.
Ah oui, parfait. Okay, so I'm going quickly into our creation. Oops. Sorry, into the what we can do in the COVID mode. In fact, there is a switch, because at the beginning of the crisis, it was like, okay, what can we do? And now we can do more. Okay, I'm going to explain. But first of all, when the crisis, I'm sorry, it's in French, but I'm going to pass very quickly and you're going to see. For the COVID crisis, we cannot do shootings. So it was like, oh my God, we don't have talent, we can do shooting. What are we going to do? So there was a bunch of solutions. And when there is a problem in creation, it's always a great opportunity to do something else, and to go out of our comfort zone and to see different opportunity and different solutions. So we've got like 10 solution right away. It was, okay, we can use like old spot and make it again. We can do only a spot or communication with animation, with typography. We did it for Ducep, we did it for La STM. And we can do, we can like have a 3D characters like we did in Jeep for Halloween, or we can build all the spot in 3D. We can do motion design like we do for La STM and CCQ. It's always very nice on the social media to see typo moving. It could be very dynamic. You can do on stock image. And with stock image, we will see later, there are some example. You can have like great spot with only stock image. It's a long research to have some good stock, but you can do it, okay? So this is a way to do it. We can like have some product insertion. So it's like a mix with photo, and you turn a photo into video. We did it for our clients on Garnier and L'Oreal. We can like build an whole universe in 3D. Oh, the link is broke, but we did it for the Artera clients. It's like wine. So we did a whole universe, like it was like an immersion into the wine. So the red, the yellow, it was very beautiful. And we can do matte painting also. This is, you have like some shot and you can change the background. We do it for Chrysler because we went to Florida and there was no cliff. So we put a cliff behind, but this was not in the COVID, during the COVID crisis, but it's a way to do it. You can change the background, and with a background change, you know, on Zoom is like when you change the background on Zoom, you're feeling somewhere else. It's the same thing. You can do it with a spot. And the last one is the drawing on the photo. So you can have like only photo, not an image, like static photo, and you can draw just some animation up. So this one, and here are some examples we did. For l'AMF, because at the beginning of the crisis, we saw that there was a lot of fraud on the internet. So we have to move very quickly. So the example we are going to show you are examples that have been done in like 6 or 8 days. So very quick to be on the market very quick. So
so can you talk a little bit about like before you got into that, like how do you brainstorm and creative during because that was one of the questions Deborah asked. So did it change the fact that you're not in the same room?
In fact, with Zoom, it didn't change a lot. First of all, there is adaptation, and everybody is now very adept, because with Zoom is like you are in the same place, because we put on the screen all the faces, because I think faces are very important in the brainstorm, because sometimes the face tell you more than the word, you know. And so you have this feeling that everybody is on your screen and can talk, and the briefing, the brainstorm are almost the same. You can share screen. It's just a different way to do it, but at the end of the day, it's the same process, but not in the real, just virtually. But at the end, it don't like, is not, you know, it is not harmful for the creative process. It's like cool to be just at home and to see, okay, you got the inspiration from something else. I think it's like more productive for the creation, because your brain is like open and you share more with your colleagues. And I think there is a good thing for the creation to have like this kind of, you know, it's a challenge. And when there is challenge and then when there is rule is where the creation is better. So
and one of the challenges was really for our clients to, you know, get into the market quickly. So I think like the solutions, the production solutions that Sann presented was really to explain what we were able to do because we were not allowed to have actual video shoots. They've just now re-allowed it, but it's like very limited. I think it's 15 minutes total close time between two actors. And so it's still a challenge. So all these solutions are still the best, the easiest to stay safe. And
Yeah,
still
and
have.
there is also a solution that we use for one of our clients was to use real couple. So if you use real couple, it's like so easy because they can touch themselves and like be like, it's easier. So our now casting are always like with real couple. And if you want kids, it's also their real family, you know? So it's like, okay, it's more complicated, but the good news is that actor fit together very well. And there is a lot of actor couples. So
Sann and Rachelle, can I ask you a question? So does it must change the tone and in a way, I guess, make it more authentic, because if you have real families, they're not actors.
Yeah, you're totally true because it changed everything. And on the shooting, we were on Zoom. In fact, there was only the art director and the director of the shooting were on the shoot, and with all the other part of the team was on Zoom. And it changed everything because it feels so true, because it was true, and it was like a couple in the day life, and we were playing around that your house is changing, your living room is now also your gym, and your kitchen is also your school for the kids, and playing with all the changing of your house, and with this real couple. And then at the end of the spot, they are in bed. And there is always something weird when you see like two people, they don't know each other, they have to kiss in the bed, you have to look at it very closely and then repeat it and then kiss again. I'm like, you're like, you know that it's fake. And this is funny because my kids were at home and it's the first time that they assisted at a shooting, and they were like, okay, mom, are they real? I'm like, yes, they are a real couple. Don't be afraid. It was so funny. But yeah, so you are totally right. It's changed for the better, in fact, because it's like you feel it, and it's so easy, so much easier to have like a real family. To be honest, we don't have like, we are looking for a family with the kids right now for a spot. We don't have to. We didn't try it right now, but we have tried for a real couple, and it was amazing.
And did what was the conversation with your clients, and are they changing how they're thinking now from here on, saying, hey, you know, this is really great with a real family. Maybe when life comes to normal, we should think about this.
Yeah, for sure. Because at the end of the shooting, everybody was like, okay, we need always to find real couple, because it changed everything. So this was the main, it was like, okay. And we did like, we did the shooting in a studio, and we built a house in the studio.
Oh.
And it seemed so real. It was like, oh God, it's so amazing. There was no house, but a real couple. And it's better than a real house and a fake couple, you know? We've changed it. So, no, it was, it's amazing to see. And we are very close with our client. And I think this is the key, because we talk a lot about them. And during all the crises, we're always like, okay, we can do this, we cannot do that. Creatively, okay, maybe if we cannot have a real couple, because this was a question, maybe we can do split screen, you know, to make a shooting with this one and this one, and then make it again. It was like, okay, all the split screen, or like, oh, every actor is like, they are never together on screen, but one is there, and then the next plate one is there, but it's like always like a challenge. But the creatives are very happy to do it, because it's a challenge. It's like, okay, how we are going to resolve this. So this time we choose a real family and a real couple, and it was amazing. So yes, the next time we are going to keep doing couple. I don't know how many couples. Maybe there are new couples. I don't know.
New COVID couples.
Oh yeah, or fake
yeah.
couples. You know, yes, we are together because they want a job. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting because without COVID, you might not have ever tried this.
No, yeah, and in fact, I never had a real couple because I don't know, maybe they are shy to came to the casting together. I don't know. And to be honest, you have like not the same talent in the couple sometimes. You know, you have like the man or the woman. I don't say, you know what? You have someone more talented than the other one, so you take always the more talented. So it's always like when they come to in couple, you're okay, I'm just going to take the man, or I'm just going. It's always like a little bit tricky. When they are both, that you take the package and it's easier.
Interesting. Good. Do you want to show us your this commercial?
Yeah, I can.
This was just because it was such a quarantine specific case. You know, l'autorité des marchés financiers is the financial. How do you say that in English?
Je peux pas t'aider.
They oversee financial
Like
markets.
a regulator, like the regulator.
Thank you.
Exactly.
In Quebec. And, you know, so cases of phone frauds were going up through the roof, especially with elderly people. And so there was a whole campaign that had been planned, and it wasn't the right time to put it on air. I mean, it was ready to go, but they had the media, but it was just like the mindset was not the right mindset. And they said, let's use this media, but do a new campaign around fraud, you know, because we need to warn people. And so we had like a week before the air date, and this was at the very beginning of confinement, quarantine. And so there was no shootings. Everybody was isolated in their own house. And our creative team got this, and the account service team obviously got this on air within 8 days, I think. So it was a good success. Peux-tu le faire jouer? Ouais, vas-y.
Even in quarantine, no one is immune to fraudsters. Be extra vigilant during this period. We are seeing attempts at financial fraud on the internet, by email, and by text. And contact the Autorité des marchés financiers if you have any doubts.
Simple idea.
Simple.
Fraudsters don't play clean, pandemic or not. Be extra vigilant during this period. We are seeing attempts at financial fraud on the internet, by email, and by text. And contact the Autorité des marchés financiers if you have any doubts.
And the last one.
Fraudsters won't handle your money with kid gloves. Be extra vigilant during this period. We are seeing attempts at financial fraud on the internet, by email, and by text. And contact the Autorité des marchés financiers if you have any doubts.
So at this time, it was really the beginning of the crisis, and like all this was very relevant to the people's mindsets at that time. It was all about learning about the gloves, the disinfecting, everything, and it was like very contextually relevant. This was because we forgot a little bit. I think we all did forget about all the nonprofits also, because we were so deep in the crisis. But like when you rely on events, fundraisers, other you know, in this case, they have actual dogs, physical dogs that are ready. They have beneficiaries that are in need of the dog, but there's nobody. You know, there's the fundraising events have gone. Anyway, so we suggested actually to help them out with an ad. And this was during the phase where all the big festivals, everything was being canceled right and left. So, vas-y, Sann.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And we are happy because it works very well. So this is very great.
Very nice. That was very powerful, actually. Seems like the simpler it is, the more powerful.
Yeah, very, and it was on social media. So when you got it this is the version, let's say, like this one, but we have an Instagram version. In the other format, it was very powerful and it did great. So we are very happy of that. Produit d'ici. I have to share access because I just
Maybe turn it over to the period question if we don't want to miss any
Yes,
time.
I just put a note that, feel free if you have questions, just let me know in the chat and we
Okay.
can unmute. And if you have comments, this is intended to be a conversation. So I'm actually very interested in hearing about the conversations you had with your clients, especially someone like Metro, which we talked about, Rachelle. Like, when this first happened, you said there was a debate about how do we communicate? Do we express empathy? Do we express caution? Can you share, Rachelle and Sann, like, what were your clients thinking and what did they go through in terms of how their thinking changed?
Yeah, because I mean, obviously for us, it was important to have that long-term vision because most marketing plans are made for the long term, so especially brand building is very long-term. So often like right in the middle of summer, often we're shooting Christmas spots, right? So, Metro was very, very, right from the start, obviously very engaged in helping also Québécois. So they came up with a program to give points from the Metro et Moi program to food banks because it was very socially relevant that obviously people weren't working, they were hungry, there was nobody serving foods and for homeless people. And so right away they jumped in. So there was a layer for them of very concrete, actionable, let's help, as well as like in parallel getting the stores safe. I mean, that was one of the big things that needed to be communicated also to people is like, the stores are safe. Here's what we've done to keep you safe, blah, blah, blah. And then there was obviously a little bit more of a longer term planning. And I mean, that's an example with Metro, but all our clients went through that sort of situation, whether it's the Société de Transport de Montréal, la STM, there was some operational things that needed to be dealt with really in the short term, but there was also like some more longer term vision. What do we do with existing campaigns? What do we do about, the thing that was supposed to launch in the summer? Is the tone right? Are we going to be celebrating parties and barbecues in your backyard? No, obviously not. So, I mean, it had a huge impact at many, many levels, as much with what was to come as with what was already planned. And so what we wanted to do is bring data points to our client and say, here's like relevant day-to-day data showing how people are thinking, how they're evolving in their mindset, how they're feeling the economic impact, what is their stress level in terms of going out of the house, consuming, what are the products that they want. And so quickly we became, a resource of just like helping them navigate that and planning multi-phase. So what do we do today? What do we do tomorrow, which is now? And then what do we do longer term? And that, even that plan evolves, right? Because we don't know, what's going to happen. I mean, you look at the States and you think, oh my God, so it's like everything can happen. And so very fluid plans, Sann made an allusion to it, but we're very close to our clients, talking very frequently, making sure that we're aligned, that, we all have the same info and that we're moving ahead. And we're trying to be as reactive as possible in terms of helping them, be agile and reactive and get to the market with the right message. at the right time.
We have a question, which I think is an excellent question because I think it applies to a lot of brands and businesses. Wilma, do you want to ask your question, please?
Certainly. So I'm a coach and a consultant. So I'm curious about how I would market and message during these times without appearing to be self-serving.
So you mean for that specific or just any brand?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question because, you know, there's a level of cynicism, like brands have to be really careful to not seem opportunistic right now. And yet business still needs to carry on. And what if you've got a brand that can help people? Like I'm getting a lot of that. Like, how do I reach out to people now without seeming to capitalize?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you have to be, it has to be true, you know, what you're proposing has to be authentic, and you have to be positioning yourself in a very authentic way, because consumers are going to flare it out if it's not authentic. And so, I mean, if you're a brand that has a truly useful product that can help people and you have an authentic tone, you're okay, you know? So, I mean, the danger is to try to be something you're not. That's what it is. And, you know, in some instances, you're relevant just because you're giving them a good price, you know? It doesn't, people still want to consume, you know? The people have been locked in their homes. They still want to buy a plant or maybe change their couch, and it's okay to tell them, hey, we've got nice quality couches that are made in Quebec or made in Ontario for a really good price. That's okay too, you know? It's not you don't have to be scared to talk and to be there and be relevant. It's just being like attentive to what the consumer wants. It's like in any relationship, you know, being attentive.
And I like what Melanie said about being empathetic as well. So you have to be authentic and empathetic. So I suppose if you're a service, that even a service can lead with that empathy and authenticity, right?
I think that, you know, empathy was good, and and then too many people did it, you know, and consumers got tired of hearing, we're here for you, and these epic spots, you know, in these uncertain times, you know, we have always been here for the past 30 years and we're here for you. And I think consumers got a little bit like, you know, they didn't want to hear that anymore. They're like, listen, just be practical, be pragmatic. And yes, empathy needs to be there, because I mean, that's the basis of it, but don't say you're empathetic. So be empathetic, but don't say it. And so being empathetic means, like I said, like knowing what's important for the person. Is it safety? Is it price? Is it origin of the product? And then communicate that in the most tailored way possible.
You know, I'm so curious though, because obviously those brands that said it so much, they obviously have smart agencies as well. I mean, what was that all about? Like, I think a lot of people did the eye roll. Oh, you suddenly care about me. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. I think, I mean, like I said in the deck, like the famous brief, like, what do we do for COVID? Every agency, every brand, you know, everybody wanted to show. And, you know, most 99.9% of people and brands don't have bad intentions, you know, they actually do feel that way. And, you know, I think it's a case of just everybody thinking and feeling the same way at the same time, which kind of just led to an overload. I don't think it was, and unless you're like, you know, really have bad intentions, people are going to forgive that also, you know. I think that once you hear that feedback, it's like, okay, now we want concrete empathy, you know, pragmatic empathy, then you switch, you pivot, you know, and that's what's important. You need to just really be agile, out there listening.
Yeah. And maybe it's for the brand, there was like empathy, like you said, like too much, like a big spot with a lot of empathy. When you have something to take a program or something to add to the empathy, something like concrete, I think the empathy works well. Like, okay, I don't know, if you cannot take care of your payment, or I don't know, we are with you and we make something to change the situation. You have to have an action. You cannot just say, okay, we are with you, you need to have something else to add the power.
Back it up. Yeah.
Very good.
Back it up. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, and that, I think brands that did that successfully, like married the authentic and the empathetic, are going to win consumers' hearts. You know, it's as long as you're bringing something for them concretely. Yeah.
Barry, you have a question? If you don't.
Sure. Hi, great stuff. Well, just curious, what was your biggest surprise? Either what people wanted to do or didn't want to do, or stuff you just shake your head, what? I don't know.
That's a good question. Sann, do you have something that comes to mind right away? While I think.
But in the production, in the creation, it was like, there was always surprise, because okay, it's like little surprise all the time, because you have to change your mindset on doing like a shoot or a production, because in the no COVID life, you had a bunch of people on the set, and you have like a dresser, makeup, and you have the art director, and you have the set, and then now it's like, okay, there is only one person at times. So you're gonna make, like, you go on the set, you make the hair, then you go off the set, then someone else go on the set, make the touch up, the makeup touch up, and then they come back, and then they are there. So the surprise was like, oh, it takes so long, you know? It's like all the shoot, because a shooting is always long. It's like 10 hours or 12 hours, you know, we are used to. But with the COVID, we have to simplify a lot our concept, because the surprise was, okay, when we did the concept, it was like, okay, one thing. But to produce it with all the, okay, you have to wash your hands every time, and you have to do this and do this, it just takes longer to do it. That was a surprise for the creation. So now we are used to it.
I think my surprise was, I mean, how overall everybody that I work with and my clients reacted so quick and well. And, you know, to come back to that empathy, I really feel it, you know, I could feel like people wanting to help, and like, what can we do? You know, where can we get involved? And that was very touching, you know, because we're in a very, you know, sort of mercantile environment all the time, you know, and to see this like softer human side of everybody at once was a little overwhelming almost. It was like, oh my God, you know. And the other big surprise, I think, is actually comes back to one of the initial questions, but my big surprise was that we can actually have an agency virtual. You know, it's like we actually are running this agency, serving clients, doing all kinds of content totally from our living rooms, you know, with kids running around in the background and cats digging up my plants. And it's just like, it's that for me is my biggest surprise. Like, but I haven't had a shock. Like, I was trying to think, did somebody do a campaign that kind of shocked me, or, you know, I didn't really have anything that comes to mind right now, no.
David has a question. David, if you'd like to ask. We won't see him. He's having problems. Can you?
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Okay. I did read it. So many people are predicting we'll see a second wave of COVID-19 in August, September. If this happens, how do you expect this will impact the new normal you described? And what do you think marketers can do in response? I really think that, you know, obviously, we're going to sort of like go back into a little bit of a social, like a behavioral and health crisis is going to, that sort of like, so the am I showing my, so the economical thing was up here and the other two were sort of going down. I think that as they go back up, like the behavior and the health crisis, we're going to be more prepared with better solutions faster. I mean, I don't think that there will be any more like total surprises. I think that, you know, the same way we've pretty much all adapted to our new lives, brands, I think, have really adapted. You know, most of my clients really have, and we will, you know, be just better. I sure hope that there isn't a second wave, but if there would be, I think that we're just going to keep doing what we're doing now, and hopefully brands are going to still continue, no matter what, to accelerate their digital transformation, or else, you know, I mean, there's very little hope for perennity in an environment that isn't 100% digital. You know, whether that's good or bad for human beings is another question, but.
So is what you're saying that marketing, if there's a second wave, won't respond to a second wave? Like it'll just be business.
I think it's just, well, no, I mean, no, in the sense where I think that all the changes for marketing that have come into play are just going to continue to accelerate, because, you know, like, let's talk concretely, but like, you know, food delivery or grocery delivery, I mean, they're not going to stop their acceleration right now, right? So it's just getting better, like all the different services and products, you know. I do think, unfortunately, that a lot of retailers, you know, are going to continue closing their, you know, brick and mortar shops, and it breaks my heart every time I see a boutique or a restaurant or something else that has closed. But at the same time, I have wonderful surprises when I see a tiny little shop and I walk in and I'm like, wow, how did you guys do it? We pivoted, you know, we went on Instagram and started selling and da-da-da-da-da-da. Now we're doing live events where we present our collection. And I was like, wow, you know, so for me, it's like that. It's like the people that are going to pivot are going to do it more and accelerate that. And unfortunately, those that haven't really gotten the wave are not going to make it, you know. So that's I think what's going to happen. And I mean, it's like we said, crisis accelerates change, and it's not new ideas. It's just, you know, they were there, but we're just accelerating them. So I feel like it's that, but like applied to a second wave, just acceleration.
So we're at 10:30.
Yes.
Do you have anything you'd like to say, Sann, as a wrap up? Final observations?
Yeah, we will see for we will see, in fact, in creation. We are always adapting ourselves. We are always changing. So, and ending then with the client, if there is a second wave, or if there is no second wave, we are gonna adapt ourselves. So, and it's a great way to do it, you know.
And it's interesting what you say about things working virtually, because of course there's still that great debate about people insisting we must be together, and you're proving that.
Yeah, sure. And we are even closer with our clients, because it's easier to reach them and to have them in the conversation. You know, we just have a chat, a text. Okay, can you join us on this room or on this Zoom? It's so much easier, and you can, you know, we are even more bonding with our clients. It's like, okay, my baby is sleeping, can you call me? And you know, there is something magical about that, because everybody is like, okay, let's make a plan. The baby is sleeping. We have to go dance before that. So it's always funny.
Yeah, it's true.
It's great.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you for everybody who was there and your questions and everything. It's been super interesting, and please don't hesitate to follow up on LinkedIn or anywhere else. It would be our pleasure.
How can people reach you? Should they, if they want to talk with you, should they connect on LinkedIn?
Yeah, let's start with like that. I think it's the easiest, and then we can take it from there. Yeah.
I've recorded this, so I'll post the recording on LinkedIn later today, so you can share it as well.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. Really grateful. It was fantastic. I loved it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Great.
Have a great day.
Have a good day, everybody.